Okay, good afternoon, gentlemen. Those of you that don't know me, though I'm fairly certain you all know me quite well, my name is Nigel Coombs, and I've been a HGV driver for the past 8 years. And just like you fine gentlemen, I have the privilege of working here at Brinks UK. Now, before we start the session, I must inform you that for assessment purposes, this is being recorded today. Are you all happy to be in the video? All happy with that? Fantastic. Great stuff. So what we're looking at today, gentlemen, is we're going to do a mini refresher course on what would be the larger CPC module, which you would do as part of your periodic training on working time directives and tachograph rules. And we're going to be looking specifically today at understanding compliance and the common mistakes that are often made by drivers with the working time directive and also driver hours and how they conflict. Okay, so first and foremost, I must ask, has anybody in the room got any additional needs that I need to be made aware of? No, that's good news. Okay, if anything does come up during the session, please make me aware of it and we can adjust things accordingly. If anybody needs to use the facilities, the toilets are just down by the entrance where you came in. If you do need to leave the room at any point, please feel free to do so. If you're going outside of the building, please be aware this is a live working environment and ensure that you are wearing the appropriate PPE. We're not expecting any fire alarm tests today, so if you do hear a fire alarm, please react accordingly. Leave your belongings behind, leave by the nearest exit, which is where you just came in, and the assembly point is next to Unit 7 building, which we're in now, and there's a big green marker on the wall telling you where the assembly point is. Okay, any questions so far? Fantastic. Right, can you just ensure that your phones are turned to silent? And I just want to emphasize the fact that during the session, I expect everybody to conduct themselves in an appropriate manner. And then by that, I mean, I expect everybody to treat each other with mutual respect. Okay, so you've heard enough from me. I'm just going to ask now, going from left to right, if you can please just introduce yourselves, tell me how long you've been driving for and what your current role is in the industry. Starting with yourself, please.
My name is Jim Russell. I've been driving for 37 years.
Wow.
John Parker, I've been driving for 25 years, HGV.
Luke Tolfrey, driving for 9 years, and HGV driver.
Richard Martin, driving for HGVs for 0 years and operations director.
Okay, and just to confirm, as the operations director, you are actually the O license holder for the company. Fantastic. Okay, well, we've obviously got a wealth of experience in the room today, so as I go through the initial assessment this morning, that's going to make life a lot easier for everybody. So just to start with, we'll have an overview of what we're going to look at today. So we're going to start with looking at the working time directive and specifically the road transport working time regulations of 2005. We'll also be looking at EU driver hour regulations. And towards the end, we'll carry out a short activity, which hopefully you'll be able to apply that knowledge I'm about to report to you to a real life working scenario. Okay. So the objectives for today, hopefully, by the end of the session, you'll have a better understanding of the basics of the European Working Time Directive. A better understanding, of course, of using tachograph and brake rules, and recognise where these rules can conflict. Any questions so far? Fantastic. And then towards the end, as you leave the room today, you'll hopefully be able to apply this knowledge to a real live driving scenario, i.e. in your everyday working life. Okay. So, just going through an initial assessment now. I'm happy for you all to answer me collectively. I'm just going to ask you, fire off a series of questions and just give me quick fire answers, please. So the first one, how long can you drive for without taking a break?
4 hours.
Correct. How long should your break be?
45 minutes.
Good. Can that break be split up?
Yes.
Of course it can. And how would that split be taken?
15, 30.
Good. 15 minutes, then 30 minutes, but not the other way around. Okay, so I want you to think now about your tachograph modes, and I'm just going to show you the symbols, and you just shout out what these symbols are for me, please.
Driving.
Good. And this one. Good, good. And this. Perfect. And finally, this one. POA, period of availability. Good. Okay, one final question for you. How would you record warehouse work? I'm talking about things that aren't necessarily part of your day-to-day driving duties. How would you record that on your tachograph? What mode would you use? Other work. Absolutely. Okay, so in summary, that's all your driving modes. So you can see we've got driving, rest and break, period of availability, and other work. Okay, so we're now going to start by looking at the European driver's hours regulations. So, as we've just talked about, after 4.5 hours driving, you must take a 45-minute break. It can be taken as a split break, 15 minutes, then 30 minutes, and it must be in that order. 10 years ago or so, the legislation changed. You used to be able to take it the other way around, and I think at one point you were able to take it split into 3 sets of 15. But as the current legislation states, it must be taken 15 minutes and then 30. So, question, if I take a 30-minute break after 2 hours driving, how much break do I need to take when my driver hours reach 4 hours and 30 minutes? Anybody tell me? Another half hour, that is correct. You will still need to take 30 minutes break. And the reason being is if you don't take a full 45-minute uninterrupted break, it will only ever register as 15 minutes. So you can take 44 minutes and 30 seconds. It will still only register as a 30-minute break. Everybody with me so far? Fantastic. Okay, so we're looking now at working time directives. So drivers must follow the European Working Time Directives, the Road Transport Working Time Regulations of 2005. This applies to total working time, not just driving. So obviously your driving is part of the Working Time Directive, but it applies to everything that you do in the workplace, not just while you're on your truck. So this includes driving, loading, and any other work where you cannot freely dispose of your time. So, can somebody give me some examples, please, of what would be considered as other work, which would need to be recorded for Working Time Directive?
Loading and unloading.
Good. Any others?
Waiting outside a shed, like at the airport.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, technically that could be used on period availability, but yes, it would still be classed as other work on the Working Time Directive. Just to give you a few examples, we've got loading, offloading, walk around checks, warehouse work, paperwork, even things like fueling, cleaning the trucks, cleaning glass and mirrors. And I've seen it many times in service stations where you can see trucks parked up, knowing full well they're on a break and they're out cleaning mirrors and glass. And if the DVSA were to approach them, they would actually demand that they restart the break again because they are not freely disposed of their time. Okay, so there's only really one key rule that we need to worry about and focus on at the moment. That's plain and simple. You must not work more than 6 hours without taking a minimum of a 30-minute break. That's it. So, an example for you, if I start work at 6 a.m., what would be the latest time I could take a break? So I'm starting at 6 o'clock in the morning. Sorry, what did you say? 12 o'clock, absolutely. Where I must take an uninterrupted 30-minute break. So this is where we get into the important part of this mini module now. So most drivers do understand both sets of rules, but they often focus on the tachograph time and overlook, and more often than not, totally disregard the Working Time Directive. Manual entries must be used correctly to record all work, not just driver duties. So why do you think it's so important? Anybody tell me?
Because drivers deserve a rest.
Drivers do deserve a rest. Any others? Okay, let me give you some examples then. So first and foremost, the legal standpoint is it ensures legal compliance, reduces fatigue, improves safety, and protects both you and your operator. The reason that's important is if every driver was to disregard both or one or the other of these directives, it puts us, means that we're working illegal. And if we're working illegal, it means we put the O license at jeopardy, his O license at jeopardy. And plain and simple, gents, no O license, no job. Okay, quick summary of what we've talked about. So driving tachograph, 4 hours and 30 minutes drive, and you must take a 45-minute break or split into 15 minutes and 30 minutes. Working time directive, 6 hours work, must take a 30-minute uninterrupted break. Any questions? Good. Okay, so we're now going to move into a paired activity. All right, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a scenario. First, before I do that, I'm going to give you these handouts. So this is just a brief outline of what we've already talked about today. So this should help you with the activity. And I'm going to give you a scenario. And the scenario is this. So you're going to start work at 6 a.m. and spend 3 hours working in a warehouse. So I don't know whether I mentioned, but I'm happy for you to work in pairs here. I don't want individual answers. So we'll have Group A and Group B. Okay? Working in a warehouse at 6 a.m., you spend 3 hours working. You are then required to go out on the road and carry out your driver duties. So in your pairs, what I want you to do is produce a work and a break plan that will keep you fully legal. So what I want you to tell me is when you're going to put your tachograph in, what you're going to do as your manual entry, carrying out walk around checks, and then tell me when you're going to take your breaks. Okay, I'll give you a little bit of time now just to work on that activity between you.
Don't worry, don't click on this.
Okay, when you have an answer, gentlemen, just let me know and we can commence.
I'll work until 9. Then you can drive for 3 hours until 12. And you've got to have another break. Then you've done 6 hours.
Well,
Thank you. And then we left them.
come on.
They're sold as a common.
Okay, you guys good to go?
Yeah.
No, whenever you're ready, guys.
Ready.
Okay, guys happy? Okay, so Group A, can you give me your scenario, please?
So you put your taco in at 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
And then it's allowed to work until 9.
Yeah.
And then you can drive, if you're required to drive for 3 hours, then you can drive for 3 hours until 12, and you've got another break.
Okay. Yeah. So
And then whatever after that.
yeah. So in essence, what you're doing is you're syncing your working time directive with your driver hours at 12 o'clock by taking that break first before you leave. Good. And yourself?
So you could, after working in the warehouse, put your taco in, record the warehouse work as other work.
Yeah, good.
Drive until 12.
Yeah.
Take a 30-minute break for your
Okay.
working time directive. And then drive up to 4.5 hours and then take another 30-minute break. Then
Okay.
You're covered with 15 minutes in the first 30 minutes for your driving and then up to that.
Fantastic. Yeah. So both examples you give me is exactly how we should be thinking about this to make sure that we stay compliant with both. Just to give you another example, so I work in the warehouse from 6 till 9. I get on the truck, I put my tachograph in, manual entry, the 3 hours work, walk around checks, and I drive immediately. At 12 o'clock, I'm going to take a 45-minute break. And that, again, it just means less break, but it means, again, that I'm syncing up the working time directive and the driver hours. Good. Thank you very much, gentlemen. That's exactly the sort of thought process that I was hoping I was going to get from you today. So well done. So we're just going to go into the final questions now. We're going to cover a few things that we've talked about today. So how would you record warehouse work on your tachograph? As other work. Good. Manual entry as other work. Why must you take a break on the when must you take a break on the working time directive rules?
6 hours.
Fantastic. See if I can get my clicker working. And when must you take a break under driving rules? Absolutely. Can the brake be split? Of course it can. And how can it be split?
15 minutes.
Good. If you take a 30 minutes break first on a split break, how long must you take on the second half of the break? Good. Still 30 minutes, your tachograph will only ever register to 15 minutes unless you take a full 45-minute break. Good. So, in summary, gentlemen, what we've looked at today, we've looked at tachograph rules. We've looked at the working time regulations and how they can conflict, and why understanding both and recording work correctly is essential to remaining compliant and safe, and most importantly, legal and protecting that old license. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your time, your attention, and for your participation today. I hope that you've enjoyed the session as much as I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.